basically, it was sort of the amnesty app that we've talked about. It allowed people that wanted to falsely claim amnesty in most cases, or falsely claim asylum in most cases, to just register on an app from their own country and then come to the border and have an appointment, check in, get released in the country with a future court date 5 to 10 years down the road, effectively getting all the rights of citizens. Some of them would fly in. I think some of them would be flown in by the government. And this brought 900,000 people to the country, just this app alone, in addition to all this nonsense we saw at the border and everything else. So I think, a couple things. It's important just to say the nonsense of the last 4 years is over. We don't have an open border anymore. We have rules of law. We're going to put American citizens first instead of the interests of the Democratic Party or illegal aliens. But basically, this shuts down one of the avenues people are coming in, and now they're going to shut down the other ones with the sealing up the border and things like that to make it much, much harder for people to get in, and then much easier to kick people out once they are here and have committed new crimes.
I thought it was interesting. I've just pulled up your resume. Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, later senior official performing the duties of the Director of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, of course, ICE. So this is, right up your alley. So when I heard that Trump, of course, we all knew that he was going to take executive orders on immigration. I know that you know a lot of this stuff intimately. How easy is it going to be for Trump to be able to use the military to facilitate protecting our southern border?
I think with this national emergency, he'll be able to do it. What I think we've talked about on before, you can't use the military to execute domestic policies.
Correct.
So he's declaring this a national emergency, so therefore he could use it along the southern border. I think from what I understand, they're going to use it for things like building the wall, building barriers, things of that nature, as well as probably having people post standing guards, acting as a deterrent and helping in logistical ways for CBP agents so that they can enforce the law rather than do all the other stuff they had been doing previously, which is, essentially being concierges for, Mayorkas's DHS. So I think it's going to be very effective. But really a lot of these things that, at least in my view, the most important thing is it just sends the message the nonsense is done. We are enforcing our laws. We're protecting American citizens. So I think it will be quite effective. There'll be, of course, the liberal outcry and everything else. But I think even most of the American people are just tired of this and want it to stop.
Well, one of the things, and I was talking about this earlier, where we all knew, Jonathan Fahey, this was going to happen, right? Where you've got the media and they're reporting on this poor woman that was standing in line to get her CBP One app. And immediately when Trump takes the oath of office and starts signing all of these executive orders, they were no longer available. It was just, that's how instantaneous it was. And of course, again, as we've all been anticipating, she's crying and she's complaining and now she's stuck. But you know what? Number one, it's the message, as you just said. It is the message that we are no longer open for illegal immigration. And I love what Donald Trump said yesterday.
On day one, I will seal the border and we'll begin the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. And if other countries say they won't take them back, we're not going to take them back. I will say that, here they come. You're just going to hold on to your britches, because here they come. They're coming back.
I mean, I loved the hold on to your britches. They're coming whether you like them or not. Talk about that process, though, because, you've got El Salvador, you've got Honduras, you've got Guatemala, you've got these nations that, bad guys have been coming from these nations, especially Venezuela, by the way, which is another one of those nations. And so, if they decide they're not going to take them back, how do we force them to take these guys back?
It seems like a couple things. I think the most effective things are what Trump's going to do, and which he's already been effective with, is things like threats of tariffs. Saying, hey, if you don't take it back, there's going to be tariffs. There's going to be other consequences. Many of these countries get aid from the United States. Cut that aid. There's other things that are done that I think we've talked about before, But a lot of these countries get a lot of money from people that have immigrated here, often legally, sending remittances back to their country, which is money back to their countries. And we could do things like tax the remittances or have some penalty on that, or maybe bar them. So there's probably a lot of ways economically that we could impose things on. And I think a lot of these countries may not want to play chicken with Donald Trump, particularly on the front end, to be the example, because, for all we know, he'll just start landing planes in their country and letting people off, and they're not going to do a single thing about it. So I think it's not going to be as hard. I mean, the Joe Biden administration, every country knew they could just push them around or extract major concessions for anything they do for us. I don't think they're going to view it the same way. So I don't think it won't be necessarily easy, but I don't think it'll be somehow an impossibility, and I fully expect it'll get done.
One of the things Trump did was he signed an executive order to end birthright citizenship. The ACLU has now filed a lawsuit challenging Trump's aim to do that. This is clearly something that is going to have to be hashed out in the courts of law. Probably will end up going to the Supreme Court. What do you think about that?
It's quite interesting, and the purpose of the birthright citizenship, as you know, was after the Civil War to basically say how do we determine who's a citizen after slaves were free. It was determined, people were born here, things like that. So it was designed for a specific issue. I think the thing that Senator Mike Lee always discusses is, it says people that are natural born in the United States, but also subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. The argument is that if you're here illegally, you're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Therefore, your child that's born here would not be either. So I think it's ultimately it's going to go in the courts. Senator Lee's point is Congress can define what it means to be under the jurisdiction of the United States. Donald Trump's executive order defines that. The courts will sort that out. But again, the most important thing here, however it comes out, it's again another message for Donald Trump. Stop gaming our system. Come here, have a kid, and then all of a sudden you're not allowed to deport. People will get outraged when you want to deport the parents because the kid's born here and all these other things. And it's like, people gaming our system has to end.
It's been abused. It has absolutely been abused. We have, I think they call it birthright tourism. We got a bunch of women, and this is particularly true from women from China, where they'll come here, they're like 7-8 months pregnant, and then they set up shop in I know there was one community in California that was notorious for this, and they come here and they have their babies so that they can have dual citizenship, these kids. And it's like a long play for for these communities and for these families and for these countries. So it has been abused. And you're right. I think messaging is a big deal. We'll have to see where this all goes. It is 7:45. Time to check the roads real quickly on WTN. 7:45 weather today, a high of 24, really cold right now. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. Your complete forecast is coming up at the top of the hour. Jonathan Fahey is joining us on the Newsmaker Hotline. All right, Jonathan, the president, of course, gave pardons to almost all of the J6ers. A handful got commutations. I don't know if you've heard anything, and we've been talking about this sort of unofficially all morning long. There are reports that the local authorities there in Washington, D.C. are not allowing some of these J6ers to leave. I don't know if you've heard anything about that. There's a lot of chatter on social media. I have not seen that this is officially being reported anywhere, but give me your over-under on the pardoning of all these J6ers. Not really a surprise.
Not a surprise. I think a good thing, and a good thing that he did it right away. There's no reason to sort of mull this over. It's just get it done, pull the Band-Aid off, stop talking about January 6th. I have not heard the thing about the authorities not releasing people. My gut feeling is more of if somebody's still in, it may be sort of an administrative issue that there is a time lapse. I think these may have been signed yesterday evening before it gets to a court, or it gets to a court and then to a jail and stuff like that. But if they are playing games, I think Donald Trump will stop that immediately. But it's good to get these out of the way. And the other thing that's really funny is I was pulling up, I think, a CNN this morning on their website, and they're outraged about this, but they don't have anything about the fact Biden pardoned somebody who murdered 2 FBI agents. And not pardon, he commuted the guy's sentence.
Yeah.
And that doesn't get any news. And it's just funny that it's like, where were the victims of the death row inmates on the news talking about the Biden commutations, but they're going to have anyone that was affected by, January 6th, on the news talking about how horrible it is.
And the guy you're talking about, Leonard Peltier, a Native American activist who, literally shot and killed 2 FBI agents. And so you do, Jonathan Fahey, you've got all of this hand-wringing over all of these J6 pardons. You don't have a lot of folks talking about the fact, except I have, of course, this morning, talking about how Biden pardoned, his family. And not only did he pardon his family, but he did it in the last, 5 or 10 minutes of his administration. And it was announced as Donald Trump was was giving his speech. It's amazing.
You're exactly right. It's so awful, and he knows it's awful that he had to hide it and bury it in the news because he can't stand up for it. You think the great thing about Donald Trump is he said he was going to do it, and he did it, and he'll talk about it. But Biden did it, hiding on the way out the door. But it just shows the media. I mean, they're so bad, and it doesn't seem like they're capable of learning the lessons about how their bias is destroying their industry. But they've been such a one-trick pony on this January 6th issue. The amount of times they've run stories on it, and every January 6th has to have vigils and things like that. It's just so over the top. It's like they should, if they're going to be a one-trick pony, they should at least learn a different trick because it's really boring at this point. And no one cares. And they've invested their bodies and souls into this event, and the American public have a lot more important things on their minds than January 6th and what Donald Trump said at a speech or somebody that hurt somebody's feelings. They need to end that stuff.
Yeah, all that is over. Jonathan Fahey, always great to have you on, and we'll have you on again soon. Jonathan Fahey with some great commentary there. Appreciate it. It is 7:50 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up after the news at 8 o'clock, I think I'm going to play some of the reaction. I've got a lot of audio that I haven't even played yet. Doggone it. Some great audio from CNN on their reaction to Joe Biden pardoning his family, because they're realizing that he did something that one of the words that they use is tawdry. So they definitely not fans of Biden pardoning his family because it just makes him look guilty. And the best part is they're trying to blame Donald Trump for it. So details straight ahead. It is 7:50 on Nashville's Morning News. I'm just, Joan, I'm going to make a request.
Yeah.
Oftentimes you have, people that call up a radio station to request a song.
Yeah.
I want to hear that Marco Rubio story at least one more time before I go home today.
Okay. Yeah.
Insert it in your 8:30 if you need to.
I will do that.
I want to hear, is there any place I could get, maybe KGB you can find, I want to hear Savannah Guthrie's response and if you're just joining us, I apologize.
I just deleted it. I'm so sorry.
Well, we'll find it again.
Yeah, let's try it.
Marco Rubio, he was being asked as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio is being asked about the January 6th pardons, I guess it was. And he told him, look, I'm here as Secretary of State. I'm here to talk about world matters. And you're asking me about this, which is not my purview. And basically, he told Savannah Guthrie, who I believe is at the Today Show, telling her to, go stick it. And I love that. It is 7:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Joan Jones does have the news coming up at 8. And Joan, what do we got?
Well, one of the things I don't think we talked about yet, 51 people stripped of their security clearances after President Trump took the oath of office yesterday. That's another one. We'll tell you about that. Also, a Nashville TikToker's warning after a frightening ride from a Lyft driver. Those stories coming up at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. 7:52. Dan Madness here. Make 2025 the year that you get active again. Now, if you've been sidelined with chronic back, neck, and knee pain, check out my friends at the Wellness Institute of Nashville and Dr. Kevin Mitchell. Now, I've been a client for over 10 years. I have never felt better. Now, I arrived in Tennessee over a decade ago, and I went through spinal decompression therapy for my chronic back, neck, and knee pain. Now, it really did help. Every once in a while, I need an adjustment, and Dr. Mitch does indeed fix me right up. Now, right now, a great deal going on. The Wellness Institute of Nashville, they're offering the Big 47 offer in honor of our now 47th President of the United States. 47% off spinal decompression. That's right. Celebrating Donald Trump's victory and now his inauguration and now day one of his second administration. 47% off spinal decompression. That is a great deal. So call them today at 615-246-5009. Always tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. They utilize the latest high-tech equipment in their state-of-the-art facility to provide effective, non-surgical solutions to your chronic back, neck, and knee pain. Call them 615-246-5009, painisbad.com.